one of the messages that I've been getting, and I got a couple months ago, was about the frequencies, how the frequencies, the powers that be, these shadow figures, have changed the frequency that we listen to in our music just enough to unbalance our bodies and disconnect us from Earth. And that's the whole 432 hertz versus 440 hertz argument, that why did they change that frequency to tune music to unless it was to unbalance people? And it's such a subtle shift that most don't understand how that resonance, that frequency of Earth, that natural frequency, is like our mother. It's our mother's heartbeat, and they've disconnected us from it.
Now, if you want to know why, all you have to do is look at the microscopic studies of what frequency does to water under the microscope.
Dr. yes.
Watch what the 432 do to the water versus the 444. Your brain is about 70% water. So now imagine whatever it's doing, the difference in that drop of water at 432 versus 444, whichever one looks the most harmonious is the one you're supposed to vibrate. It'll flip out into what they call a sacred geometric form.
Right.
And then if you don't know what it means, look the form up. Ancestors already got them recorded. You can look up the six-pointed star. You can look up a tetrahedron, icosahedron. You can look them up and find out the scientific value of them, the metaphysical value, and the mystic value of them. And you can try to find out what the numeric value of them is. So you don't even need anybody to suppose that it can't be proven. It's all verifiable information because all the information comes from the subconscious mind of man. It's only so much information on that fucking hard drive. It's gonna have to repeat itself if it want to keep up.
Yes.
You see?
Absolutely. And that sacred geometry you're talking about is repeated in different cultures across the world that had no connection to each other.
Yep.
So that the spiral, the Metatron's cube, they pop up in South America, in Egypt, in the Middle East. I mean, the fucking flower of life is on the floor of a mosque in Turkey. That, they don't believe in sacred geometry, but it's there. So it's in my mind, it's impossible.
I told you they hide the truth in plain sight.
They absolutely.
So you drive down and you look at the great artwork of the great artists. They thought that by changing the skin color that they would be able to take the power away from the icon, never knowing that it wasn't in the skin color of the person that you changed him from brown to yellow. It was in the symbols that he held in his hand. It was in the color of the clothes that he wore on his back. And don't worry about trying to change the colors, because if you change the colors, the design gonna say this is the wrong color.
Right.
Because the subconscious mind only knows so many ways to put all that stuff together. So now I just got to learn the physics of this shit in order to get that formula, in order to extrapolate back to who is behind it.
Right.
Because it'll all flip back to one person sooner or later, follow the money trail.
Yeah.
You end up in...
And those images also resonate with their own frequency. They have a power to them that no amount of changing the color or even the pattern can change. Those, just like numbers by themselves can mean 1,000 different things because they have a resonance. They have a meaning, a frequency behind them. That's why it confuses people so much. They think it's malleable and changeable, but it's not. It's infinite.
But it's not really infinite.
How do you mean?
The smallest portion of matter is divisible. You can discover it. Right? No matter how close you look to something, you're going to find out that it's really not there.
Yeah.
But then why does it feel solid?
That's a whole holographic universe conversation right there.
Right, that's because it's relevant. Because it's a unified field theory in play, it's all relevant. The first time that you say something not relevant, you just made a wrong turn down the journey of your life. Everything is relevant. The good shit and the bad shit.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, because you won't even know that good shit good if you ain't never had nothing bad.
Very, very true.
You know, so all religions and philosophers say that man must struggle to a higher plateau of existence.
Mm. That's one thing about Nassim Harmon's work that I love. They do this study with the scientific studies that shows we never actually touch anything. There's always space in between everything. Nothing ever touches. And it's such a simple idea that if you really walk it back and think about the implications of what that is, it shows you that the matter isn't real. That none of what we've been taught is real. It makes you question everything, which is good.
Here's a little simple trick that confuses a lot of people when they think about something. Do you remember in elementary school your favorite teacher?
No, actually, I don't. But I think it was my first grade teacher. I can't remember his name.
Can you remember what he looked like?
Kinda.
All right. Do you remember being in classroom?
Yes.
Now, what perspective are you remembering it? First person, second person, or third person? Are you the kid at the desk looking at the teacher, or are you looking at the kid at the desk?
I guess that's third person.
Yeah, in the memory, you are the person looking at the kid, looking at the teacher.
Right.
But at the time, you was inside the kid, looking out of the kid at the teacher. But in the memory, you're outside of the kid, looking at the kid, looking at the teacher.
Right.
How is that possible?
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
It can't be possible unless you was on the outside of yourself and inside of yourself at the same time. Go watch it.
That's brilliant. And I hadn't thought of that before. You're absolutely right. How can you be in both places? How can you have a memory of what your face looked like at a certain time?
You see? So you remember when you was little running down the street or riding a bike down the street, but when you remember it, in the memory, you watching yourself ride the bike from the outside of the self.
Right.
How is that possible? You should be seeing it from the perspective of the kid riding the bike down the street as if you're looking out from the bike. That's how the memory should be, because that's how we record it. This is the holographic nature that we talked about. Because the only way it can happen, it has to be a hologram. All parts is the same as the parts, is smaller parts of the whole. But all parts of the whole is contained in the smaller part. So no matter, every time you break a hologram down, you get another hologram. I mean, when you look back at the memory, you're really looking back at the right.
I lost you again. I lost you there for a second. Could you repeat that part for me? You said when you're looking back at a memory, you're looking back at, and then I lost you.
At the now. You're looking back at it right now, but time is an illusion. So you have to look at it right now while it's happening right now in real time, but you're not there right now. You're here right now. So when you look at it in the now, you're looking at a past event. You have to look at it in real time. You have to look at it from a different perspective.
So instead of, they say you go back in your memory to remember something, but what you're saying is actually like bringing that memory to you in this moment so you can see it.
Right. When you go back to retrieve the memory, you're going to retrieve it from a third-party perspective, from a watcher's perspective. You're going to be watching yourself perform the function. in order to report what you did.
Hmm.
But nobody never look at the memory and analyze the memory. Why is my memory set up like somebody is watching me write this paper?
Right.
On the other side of the room. Like I could see the whole classroom from when I was a kid as if I was the teacher. I wasn't the teacher. But holographically, I was the teacher and the student. It's just who eyes I looked at the particular moment. And now that I got to look back on it, I got to look back at it as it's taking place. Because it never happened. Because yesterday don't exist. But it's happening right now. Because only now exists. So it's like looking over your shoulder to see what you did yesterday.
Right.
You have to see it from the perspective of today, looking at yesterday from the third person. Because yesterday not here no more. It don't exist.
And that's probably the most profound part of the illusion that there is. We're constantly looking back. As you're saying, if there's no past, then that's just a distraction. It's just, it keeps you focused on something that not only doesn't matter, but doesn't exist.
You ever see a city horse downtown pulling the cart? You
Sure.
ever know they all got blinders on, right?
Yeah.
Do you know if you just cover a horse's eyes up with a hood, he won't move? But how do they get them to move with the blinders on?
Focusing forward.
Right. That's what we need to do to our vision. And that's why they call it making your eye become single. Then you can see, once you can get it into a more focused point, you become the observer in control of the observer effect of your own life.
That's what Buddha talks about, that detachment.
Right. But the detachment, even the way that we perceive it, is an illusion. It's not so much a detachment as in the fact that I don't feel nothing, because people think that's what it means.
Right.
You feel the emotion is there for a reason. When you feel yourself getting angry, you're only getting angry for a couple of reasons. You either taught to be angry about something as a defense mechanism, in which you have to defend yourself, and that's 90% of the reasons you get angry. Or the other one is you perceive something as a threat that you don't understand. And you don't have enough concept of fear to back down, and your emotions tell you to go forward, attack.
Right.
Fight and flight scenario where your fight is stronger than your flight. Some of us wired that way.
Right.
But we run from the threat, we'll attack the attacker. You know, and that's what we see. That's not acceptable in the social structure, being controlled by an external force, because they use that as a means to make you subjugate each other. You know, we subjugate each other every day with our hatreds.
Yes.
You know, and as long as we can continue doing it to each other, whoever reaping the benefit, because we ain't. We're not reaping the benefit. The average, everyday person, don't care what ethnicity they is not reaping the most benefit for the suffering that's taking place on the earth. So who is reaping the most benefit? That's who we need to overthrow. Because that would be who they would say the devil is, especially if we can prove a consistent, long-term, graduated appearance of this person or position for a prolonged period of time during the duration of the suffering. Then all roads lead to Rome. That's not a fucking myth. So when did matriarchy fall in Greece? When Greece fell to Rome is when Helen went from being the cause of the great rise of the Greek culture to, as a female in Greece, to a male in Rome. And the only thing Rome is good for is homosexuality and murder.
They did like their genocides and their patricides. They did enjoy that.
Right. So whatever took place between the changing of the identity of Helen is the changing of the guard from matriarchy to patriarchy.
Mm.
And the story that goes along is the story of the severing of the head of Medusa, because Medusa is symbolic of the tree Iwas.
Mm.
In her, you could use modern computer science to explain it to them better than you could 50 years ago.
Mm.
You know, you can explain the functioning of the mind today better than you could 50 years ago, where people can understand how it works. When you know how it works, you get more control of it.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the burglar coming in and you got a gun, but
Oh, I lost your sound again. Can you hear me? I lost your sound again. You still there?
I can hear you now. I wasn't hearing you say anything. I can hear you now.
It is just killing me. So, well, I've got two questions. One, you had said something earlier that gave me the insight that you can tap into those ley lines and those meridians of the earth.
Yes.
How do we do that? How do we retrain ourselves how to do that? Because that's the innate gift of all humans, to be able to tap into those. That's our birthright, to feel that connection again.
The women had mystic rights that were stolen from them during the transition from matriarchy to patriarchy. The patriarchs had to hold the right, because at the end of the age, they had to give everything back that was stolen to subjugate Earth and the women. This is the close of the age, from Pisces to Aquarius. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're frozen, but I can hear you.
Okay. So this is the closing of the age. So the return of the divine feminine comes in with the balancing act of rebalancing the vibrational frequencies of Earth. Right. And it took only a handful of women to come to an agreement to flip the grid. Now, the story about the grid is Egyptian in nature, in origin. It's about Shu and Tefnut and Mother Earth, Father Sky joining together. Right. Well, it was replaced with Shu and Men. Father Sky and Men was a male priest of sex. So this is where you get your homosexual agenda. Right. And there's nothing wrong with the people that just so happen to fall into the homosexual agenda. It's just another way to cause us to be divided so that we can stay conquered. If you balance the earth out, everything will go back to nature the way it's supposed to be. But the human got to understand we the top of the food chain for a reason. We the smartest thing on the planet for a reason. We ain't the strongest. Coven ceremonies that they used to do that they told y'all was evil and wicked. Of course it is, if you don't want the woman to rise to power. Yes, it's the dirtiest shit you can give them. If I don't want you to have power, I'm not giving you none of it. Well, I'm kind of wired a little different, because I think that the woman is a beautiful thing to have her shit that she should rightfully have by nature.
Right.
If she should have it by nature, that means that it'll balance some shit out.
Right. It's meant to be that way. Absolutely.
Right. So if you put all things in order, you don't have to fight. There's no need. There's no conflict in that.
Right.
You know, river flows according to the path of the ravine it lays in. You know, it's not going to, it'll change it over time. According to the needs of the land, it will erode according to those needs. You see, because it won't erode nowhere is not supposed to have an erosion because there's some kind of barrier would stop it. A stone, a tree root, or something would redirect it to stop the erosion. So in order to have a riverbed change over time, progress is the only thing that's constant, change. If you take away the ability of the thing to change and adapt, you kill it. It's dead because the only thing no longer changing and adapting is that which is dead.
Absolutely.
You see? So we balance, we look for put the divine feminine back in order because it just reorganizes everything the way it's supposed to be.
The history of women being taken out of those roles of spiritual leaders is really well documented and incredibly bloody. I love the idea of, it really resonates with me that the men who knew that information was being taken from the women, their counterparts were able to hold that information safe while the women went through the millennia of persecution. And now that we're no longer being persecuted, women are still afraid to come forward because of just those past lives of persecution. But now is the time for us to really stand in our own power again and balance out our male counterparts. I 100% resonate with that.
Well, you should know about the conflicts and the battles. You've been there before.
Oh yes. Yes, I get a lot of flashes of things that I know have happened, and that was one thing that, and I always resonated very deeply with the priestesses, the priestess line, and the way Catholicism went through priestesses is it's horrifying. It puts the Salem witch trials to shame to think of how they went through and just decimated that wisdom. And you go farther back and you look at the land of Mu, Lemuria, all of those, the women were the spiritual teachers, and that has to come back to the forefront. It's like my next question would be like, okay, where do we sign up for this? Like, how do we get started?
Right now, with me, I have nothing established as far as base operations or anything like that. But what I just do is I just get the information out for free. Because the more women get the information, the stronger the hive network of women is. The stronger it just automatically changes everything. When the women become aware that this is it's not about race, it's not about politics, it's not about sexual orientation. It's about never letting women rise to power again.